Hello, everybody. It feels like as good a time as any to start. So, welcome to the SIG Multicluster call for February 3rd. And there wasn't anything on the scrub, but I didn't really have time to check what's going on. But we do have a couple of topics, and the first one is the annual report. So, Laura, do you want to
Hello.
take this?
Yes, sure. Let me,
Oh, I need to enable sharing.
thank you.
There you go.
Okay. Here we go. Here it comes. All right. It's time for the annual report. Um, we need to um put this together by February 14th for review. If I understand correctly, review of the steering committee. So anything that we want to like make sure that we have right or whatever, we need to do before February 14th. There's a template. I already started a pull request and just started throwing up a bunch of stuff in the first section um, related to just like pulling stuff from notes that we did over the year. We can like trim this down or whatever, but just wanted to drop some of that. I'll keep working on that, but I also wanted to emphasize um, if there's anything that we want to add to areas or subprojects that group needs help with, and then also highlight that there's some operational tasks down here that we need to do to make sure that like we just do the annual cleanup of whether like the README is correct in the community repo or if the contributing MD and some of these other things. Um, so if you are part of a sub-project, if you can take a look, especially at the owner's files, any contributing docs related to your um, repo, um, and I think those are like the main two things. And then if there's anything, as I'm working on this, just like dropping everything in here, if there's anything that you think is missing or if there's something that you want to highlight, then keep an eye on that as well. Um, that's my request. Stephen, anything else that you want to add to this at this point?
Uh, no, I think you've
Okay.
covered everything.
All right. Mike has a hand. What's up?
Thank you, Laura. You mentioned in the PR, I think I read somewhere through June. So this is only for the
Yeah.
first half of
Yeah.
2025.
This has the first half. I'm still working on it. After this call, I'll add the rest of the stuff in this section, basically answering this first question. What work did the SIG do this year? That will have everything from this year. And then if people want to comment on like remove that or don't remove that, I'm not being very like judicious about at this step. I'm literally just like putting all the individual things more or less that I think have happened over the year so that we can aggregate them as necessary.
Thank you.
Yeah. But yeah, that is the current status. Um, great. Okay. So yeah, I'll bring this up again next week too. But the biggest AI maybe for now is if you are part of a sub-project, please take a look at your owner's files and your own READMEs contributing and any other contributing docs that you might have elsewhere, so we can get that checked off on our side. Okay.
Thank you, Laura. And well, maybe you can share the document for the next topic as
Yeah.
well.
Okay.
Um, yeah.
I will do the next topic.
All right.
Um, Last week, we had a discussion about service import and like its side effects and relevance in the modern era. Um, I pulled the transcript of that meeting, which is in this doc in this tab, and also like generated a summary and then like added in some stuff that I felt that got missed out from that in this tab, which I think represents well what was discussed last week and on the email thread, um, which is also linked here. And then as part of that conversation, sorry, going back to here, at the conclusion, we discussed making a decision doc that represents like what we want to do for posterity. So I kind of started drafting that over here on this tab. And the way that this decision doc was like discussed, at least last time, was that there should be some pro cons, or like there should be some like deep enough analysis of like the alternatives that were discussed in that meeting and on that email thread to like feel that we've like made progress. So I mean, I kind of like peeled these categories, these concern categories, from what I understood from that meeting. Um, and I put them in an order I thought was what was important from what everybody said. Maybe we'll disagree, but um, and then made this table with a bunch of things in it of what is basically discussed in this summary and in this transcript, but is now in a shape of a pro con list and organized by these concern categories. And then also at the very bottom, there's some space to put like some examples of things. I started filling this out, but didn't like totally follow up all the way, especially with this case, storing service import in a centralized admin namespace, which was the primary alternative considered. So since this doc, there has been at least one major comment on the email thread, where let me find out where I put that. Oh yeah, it's here, it's here, it's here. Yes, yes. That isn't encapsulated in here. So okay, and maybe there is even more. There's more and more and more. Okay, several things that I missed. So anyways, basically starting from here is when I last like looked at it. So I don't know if we want to like talk deeply about any of this stuff now, or if this is more of like a PSA that this exists here, and I want to at least discuss like what we need to do next to proceed. At minimum, I think there's some stuff to incorporate from this email thread, I assume, based on the fact that people talked. But I will emphasize, going back to this summary, that at the very bottom, like I think this statement here these statements here are true, that like the burden of switching or changing it needs to be super high of a benefit for us to proceed to do so. That I think we at least needed to make this decision doc to feel good about that the decision could be properly represented, including in posterity, and that there's like future work to be done about what's up with gateway APIs future, and by future I mean specifically related to like alternative backends that are not service API based, like inference pools, and a more generic API therein. Okay, that's like what's up. And I guess the status update. Does anybody have any like thoughts about steps forward besides incorporate what was added into the email thread and then proceed as we originally were going to?
I'm gonna follow up with a comment on the email thread once I fully get caught up on it. But
Okay.
yeah, I plan to endorse moving MCS API forward and not like we've gone through years of
Sure,
looking at
yeah.
possible changes, and at this point, like I think we have enough the overcoming the inertia of what we have currently dependent on the thing that's working today for many users. It is like I would be very interested in working on something net new to solve these greater scope problems, but it seems to me that like trying to retrofit or reinvent MCS API at this point is not a great idea, and we owe it to our users who have been dependent on these things for many years to just like formalize what has already kind of been in practice the case of like this is a stable API and it's not breaking.
Cool, cool, cool. Any other folks want to chime in with anything about this generally or about the process that we're taking? Or if you're like, no, stop the presses.
Yeah, we can't run
Doing what?
polls on Zoom calls, right? I don't think.
Yeah.
Not like Google Meet. It'd be
Yeah. I
interesting
mean,
to
yeah. Yeah. Just wanted to
run.
give a chance, or if anybody, I don't know if anybody on the call wasn't there last time in particular, too. So, okay. But yeah, I will take it as the AI for this next iteration on this to incorporate what was discussed on the email thread, and then I think reiterate what Mike just said too, which I think was also the conclusion from the last meeting, and then I guess to go back to the promote, like ultimately this all came out of because Arthur was like, yo, we're going to do this. And we were going to make this final call January 6th, 2026. It is now February 3rd. But anyways, so please join us there if you would like to express your opinion. In fact, somebody came later than that. And then I think we can make a decision as a community to like proceed if we feel that we've addressed this or don't need to any more further address this. Um, and then it becomes a matter of merging this, I think. So
Yeah, because
yeah,
well, I merged the earlier patch on the KEP, but then I think this one,
I see.
but I
Yeah,
think
this even
there's still
per the yeah.
bits
Sorry.
there's still bits missing from the KEP because I don't think the KEP status field was actually updated. All right, no, well, all right, no, it was there.
This
There
one.
was something else I
Something
added
else is
just
missing.
where it still says alpha.
Okay.
Anyway, there might be some other stuff to fix.
Okay. Then let's I don't know where to like store this information, but yeah, let's figure out what that thing is. And then this is kind of like the most material changes everything for people. So I think at least the group here, and I feel the group that was here last week was feeling good about moving this forward. Um, but yeah, so I think that sorry, I'm distracted, I'm confusing myself. But yeah, the whole thing is incorporate the stuff from the email thread on this. Please comment on the email thread if you feel that you want to like say anything. I will also respond on the email thread again, being like, I've updated all of this and we still want to move forward, and that this is what like we're merging this whenever I guess we want to, and that there's a few more stragglers of things that might say alpha in this cap. If somebody has some time to take a look for those and open a pull request, I think we can quickly move that through too, because that will be part of this whole package. So, and then there can be another announcement on this thread that it happened, or a new thread that's like it happened. And I think that would be the order of operations. Okay, great. So that's my topics.
Yep, thank you. And that's all there was on the agenda. Yep. Right, and yeah, you're just adding notes for the sub owners on the annual reports. Yeah, so yeah, please take care of that. People who are involved in other parts of the SIG. I guess if nobody else has anything to talk about, we can end early.
Oh, sorry, I forgot to put on the agenda. There is one topic that was brought up in the SIG MC Slack channel. I think one of the users is wondering, now that we have the placement decision API, if we're
Mm-hmm.
ever gonna try to standardize the placement, so the actual scheduling spec as well. And I quickly mentioned that it might be hard to find the common ground between all the different vendors and providers, so it might take a quite a bit of while. But I just want to gauge the is there an interest from the this group to have a unified scheduling API? I don't know if we want to start with something simple like label selection or something like that to to start off with, but I just want to get some feedback from you, from Laura, from everyone.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it always felt like we need something more for the placement decision kept. Well, I mean, I know you've explained at length how it makes sense on its own, and that's fine. But I do think for it would be helpful for implementations as well if there was a common placement object, and it's probably going to be quite a bit harder to come up with something that everybody agrees on. But then again, maybe not. So yeah, I think it would be good.
Yeah, I think where does the placement decision API side stand right now in terms of what the next work is on it?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
So the implementation, not the implementation, the definition of the placement decision API, I put it in the cluster inventory API repo. Thank God we named the API to cluster profile, by the way. So we have the cluster inventory API kind of repo to kind of cover all these related APIs. I put it in that repo because we don't have a placement API repo for now. Maybe it's not needed. And placement decision API reference the cluster profile. So that API definition PR has been merged. So if someone were to follow the CAP and develop the or import the placement decision API, they're able to do so. And that's really the next step for the multi-cluster providers and the different vendors to import the placement decision API and produces it based on their scheduling specs. So that's really the next step.
Okay. I think that I'm wondering what perhaps we could spend our energies towards to like make that happen or support that happening or like socialize that more. So because I think ultimately that process and part of the reason these were split is that that process can provide input into the placement. Sorry, words fail me. Placement request, placement. Yeah, I guess just placement API, as opposed to decision API. So, yeah, I feel like that was kind of how it was like implied in the placement decision cap. So if that's the case, and we still think that that's important, I think that um, uh, we should make a sort of bandwidth-based decision on how much we spend on jumping into the placement API versus how much we try and build more use cases by pulling through placement decision API to implementers. Maybe some of this can happen in parallel, like there can be a skeleton doc or whatever for people to start talking on about the placement API. But since that was so, you know, uh, uh, it was set up in such a way so that that could be achieved, then I think we can try keep, push that through. Is how I perceive it. That's my take.
Thank you, Laura. That was a really good way of putting it. Thank you for your guidance. I think that makes a lot of sense. So I'm gonna continue. I'm gonna follow what you recommended. Actually, maybe get a hey everyone, we got this thing now message out there,
Yeah,
and get
I
the
think there's a comms for sure. Yeah.
yeah, get the consumer. I mean, get the producer side things going, and then once we get that going, we can start working on the consumer side. And on a related news on the consumer side, just give an example of the work that we're it's not it's quite nice. Is Argo CD is going to try to pick up the cluster profile credential work that we've been working on, and that's along the cluster inventory, cluster profile API. I mean, we've been working on 2 or 4 years, and getting that big consumer will be quite nice. So hoping to see the same thing with the placement decision API as well. Before we get to the the common scheduling placement API, which might be probably a challenge as we already discussed. So yes, Laura, I'm fully on board with what you just said. Yeah, and that's basically it for my topics.
Okay, thank you. And yeah, there's a call tomorrow with Argo CD and a bunch of folks to discuss customer profile and that sort of thing. So that's going to be interesting. All right, so I think that's it then. There's a fair amount of stuff to be getting on with. Yeah, because obviously the annual report, like Laura said, we need to have the PR not necessarily ready to merge, but ready to review in 11 days time. And we also, the service import discussion, it would be nice to wrap that one up sooner rather than later as well. So if you have anything to say, please do read the email thread and the Laura's summary document and make your voice heard if you want it to be heard. And yeah, all the information is in the agenda doc.
Yeah, I'm putting some notes in live.
Yep, I see that. Thank you. And so I wish everybody a good rest of the week and see you next time.
See ya.
Bye.